"You're my only reason for living," he whispered, after threatening to OD when I tried to break up. I froze, torn between fear and guilt. He was posting about me an hour later. "You're my only reason for living," he whispered, after threatening to OD when I tried to break up. I froze, torn between fear and guilt. He was posting about me an hour later. I met him online when I was just 16, a timid girl navigating the choppy waters of social anxiety. I had just started therapy, desperately trying to reclaim some semblance of a normal life. My search for advice led me to a message board dedicated to those battling similar demons. It was there that I stumbled upon his posts. His username was Lonely Eagle, and his story resonated with me. At 24, he had never been in a relationship and was filled with resentment, voicing his frustrations about women who seemed to overlook him for men who had their lives together. I could feel the bitterness in his words as he described his struggles, his self-loathing spilling onto the screen like ink on paper. I remember thinking, this guy needs a friend. Naively, I sent him a private message, offering a few words of comfort. Looking back, I'm not sure what compelled me to reach out. Maybe it was my own loneliness, or perhaps I felt a connection to his pain. Whatever it was, it turned into a daily exchange of messages, each of us sharing our fears, dreams, and insecurities. Eventually, he asked me to be his girlfriend. I said yes, fully aware we had never met in person. He lived in Florida, while I was in California. Despite the miles between us, I felt a sense of commitment, promising to remain faithful even as his jealousy over my interactions with other guys began to grow. He worked at a fast food restaurant and often complained about his job. He had studied psychology but never pursued a career in it, claiming his anxiety held him back. I remember encouraging him to apply for therapy positions, thinking it might give him the purpose he desperately needed, but he always found an excuse to avoid it. Living in a small town, he frequently lamented his financial struggles. His meager salary barely covered his bills, yet he spent most of it on video games, fast food, and online subscriptions. I later learned that this spending spree had a darker side. He was grappling with a gambling addiction. At the time, I was oblivious. I excused his habits, convincing myself it was a coping mechanism for his anxiety. His decisions often baffled me. Instead of saving money to fix his broken car, he splurged on the latest gaming console. When he finally got a ticket for driving with a broken brake light, he impulsively adopted a puppy, convinced it would bring him joy. Yet, when his parents rejected the idea of keeping the dog, he abandoned it at a shelter. The next day, he called me in tears, panicking over the possibility of euthanasia. I felt a mix of sympathy and frustration. How could he act without thinking? Half the time, he was high on marijuana, which he insisted helped him cope with his anxiety. I tried to support him in quitting, but his inability to manage his emotions only worsened. I found myself caught in a cycle of wanting to help him while realizing the futility of my efforts. As the months turned into years, I started to feel trapped. After nearly 2 years, I craved more from our relationship. I wanted to go on dates, to experience life beyond the confines of my room. My friends urged me to consider my own needs, and I gradually felt suffocated by our long-distance dynamic. During one intense phone call, we reached a shocking agreement. I would pay his rent for 6 months. I withdrew $8,000 from my college savings, believing this financial boost would give him the fresh start he needed. Instead, he remained jobless, lost in the world of gaming and unable to take the job search seriously. My family watched in disbelief as I poured my savings into this relationship. I felt isolated, working long hours to support both of us. The weight of our lives pressed down on me, and despite my growing resentment, I clung to the hope that he would eventually change. But he never did. I broke up with him shortly after starting college, ready to embrace my newfound independence. The day I ended things, he threatened to hurt himself, begging me to help him find drugs to numb his pain. Guilt washed over me, but I knew I had to prioritize my well-being. After blocking him on all social media, he took to public forums to vent his anger, painting me as the villain who abandoned him for another guy. I felt furious and embarrassed, wishing I could erase every memory of our time together. Months later, I began dating someone new, a classmate who had supported me through my recovery. My ex never knew, as I had severed all ties completely. I learned later that he moved back home, still struggling with the same issues. Reflecting on that chapter of my life, I feel a mix of disgust and pity towards my first love. I wasted 2 years with someone who never genuinely tried to improve his situation. I hate that I feel this way, but I can't help it. Now, I'm on the brink of marrying a wonderful man, a supportive partner who encourages me to chase my dreams. I'm in grad school, building a future I once thought was impossible. Why didn't my first boyfriend ever try? I needed to share this story, to shed light on a part of my past I've kept hidden for so long. Maybe it's cathartic to admit my experiences, acknowledging how far I've come. So, Reddit, AITA for feeling disgusted with my first love and wanting to move on? Update 1. The days following my post were a whirlwind of emotions. I received tons of comments, ranging from supportive to critical. Some users empathized with my struggles, while others questioned my choices. "You spent $8,000 on him," one comment read. "How could you not see the red flags?" I felt a mix of validation and defensiveness. Yes, I had made mistakes, but I was also trying to navigate a complicated relationship, one that felt almost impossible to escape. Reading those replies stung, but one stood out. "You gave everything and he gave excuses." That line echoed in my head for days. One evening, as I sat in my tiny apartment, I scrolled through the comments again. A particular reply struck me. "You deserve to be with someone who lifts you up, not holds you back." It was a simple statement, but it resonated like a bell. I realized I had spent so long trying to fix someone else that I had neglected my own growth. With that realization, I decided it was time to take control of my narrative. I needed to plan my next steps, not just for my emotional well-being, but to ensure I didn't fall into a similar trap again. I called up my best friend, Sarah, who had been my rock throughout my recovery. "I need your help," I said, my voice shaky but determined. "I want to make sure I'm never in a situation like that again." Over the next few days, we brainstormed ways to build my confidence and establish healthier boundaries in relationships. We talked about what I wanted in a partner, how I could recognize red flags earlier, and the importance of maintaining my independence. Sarah suggested journaling my feelings and experiences, which would not only help me process my emotions, but also serve as a reminder of my worth. I also started reaching out to others in my support group, sharing my story and asking for advice. I found comfort in knowing that I wasn't alone. Many had faced similar challenges. One member suggested I create a list of what I wanted in a relationship, a tangible reminder of my goals. I spent the evening writing it down, my heart racing as I listed qualities like supportive, ambitious, and emotionally mature. As I crafted this list, I felt a sense of empowerment wash over me. Each word felt like a declaration of my newfound independence. I wanted someone who would encourage me, not weigh me down with their baggage. I realized how important it was to prioritize my own happiness and to never settle for anything less than I deserved. A week later, I decided to visit my therapist again. I had avoided therapy for a bit, thinking I could handle things on my own, but I realized that I needed to process everything that had happened. Sitting in the familiar chair, I opened up about my feelings of disgust towards my first love and my fears of repeating the same mistakes. "I feel guilty for how I feel," I confessed. "I shouldn't be angry with him, right? He was struggling too." My therapist nodded, her expression calm and understanding. "It's natural to feel that way. You invested a lot, and it's okay to acknowledge your pain. Remember, you're not responsible for his choices, only your own." Her words resonated deeply. I wasn't responsible for his life or his happiness. I had to focus on my own. That realization felt like a weight lifting off my shoulders. In the weeks that followed, I started to feel lighter, more free. I focused on my studies, enjoying my time with friends, and exploring my new relationship with my classmate, Jake. He was everything I had hoped for: kind, supportive, and genuinely interested in my aspirations. It felt refreshing to share my dreams with someone who encouraged me to pursue them. As I continued to move forward, I couldn't help but feel a mix of sadness and relief when I thought of my first love. While I would never deny the impact he had on my life, I was finally ready to let go of the anger. I wanted to embrace my future, to take the lessons I had learned and build a life that reflected who I truly was. So, Reddit, AITA for choosing to invest in myself and my happiness instead of lingering in the past. Update 2. As the weeks passed, I found myself in a delicate dance of emotions. My relationship with Jake blossomed, and he supported me as I navigated the complexities of my past. I felt a sense of normalcy that had been absent for so long, yet shadows of my first love still loomed over me. I was often reminded of how differently I had felt in my previous relationship, and it was difficult not to compare our moments. One evening, as I prepared for a study session with Jake, I received a notification that made my heart drop. My ex had posted a long rant on a public forum, detailing his version of our breakup. He painted me as the villain, claiming I had abandoned him for someone better, someone who didn't have to struggle like he did. The words pierced through me, and I felt a mix of anger and disbelief. How could he twist the narrative like that? I thought, my emotions swirling as I grappled with the unfairness of it all. I knew I had to confront this. I couldn't let his lies go unchecked, especially since some of my friends still followed him online. I spent the next few days stewing over my options. Ignoring it was tempting, but I realized that silence would only allow his narrative to fester and grow. I wanted to take control of my story, to reclaim my truth, and not let his words define me. After discussing it with Sarah, we agreed that I should write a response, something measured and calm that would clarify the facts without descending into a public fight. "It's not about him," she reminded me. "It's about you taking back your narrative and asserting your truth." I sat down and poured my heart into a post, explaining my side of the story without resorting to name-calling or finger-pointing. I wanted to share my experience honestly, to show that I had done everything I could to support him while also acknowledging my own needs. As I prepared to hit send, I felt a wave of anxiety wash over me. What if it backfired? What if he retaliated? But then I remembered my therapist's words, "You're not responsible for his choices." With a deep breath, I posted my response and stepped away from my computer, letting the anxiety settle in my chest. The next morning, I woke up to a flurry of notifications. My post had garnered attention, with many people expressing support for my honesty. Some even shared their own stories of similar experiences, reminding me that I wasn't alone. But with the support also came criticism. "Why are you airing your dirty laundry?" One commenter questioned, "You should just move on." I took a moment to breathe deeply. Yes, there were voices of dissent, but there were also many who understood. I had to remind myself that not everyone would agree with my choices, and that was okay. I was reclaiming my narrative, and that was what mattered. Days turned into weeks, and the storm of emotions began to settle. I focused on my studies and continued to grow closer to Jake, who helped me navigate the complexities of my feelings about my past. He was patient and understanding, always encouraging me to be open about my struggles. "Your past is part of who you are, but it doesn't define you," he said one night as we cuddled on the couch, studying for our upcoming exams. His words felt like a balm to my soul, reminding me that I was on the right path. Just when I thought I was finally moving forward, I received a direct message from my ex. But this time, the message wasn't just personal, it contained a screenshot of our past private texts captioned, "Let's see if she's still a saint now." He was threatening to post it. My heart raced. Should I ignore him or warn my friends before he twisted my words again? This wasn't just about me anymore. This was about my voice, my story. He claimed I had betrayed him, that I had used him for my own gain, and that he was still suffering because of me. My heart raced, and anger surged through me again. Does he really think I owe him anything? I thought, feeling the heat rise in my cheeks. I took a moment to collect my thoughts before responding. I reminded him of the truth. I had supported him, I had done everything I could, and I had to prioritize my own mental health. "You need to take responsibility for your life," I typed, my fingers shaking as I hit send. I felt a mix of apprehension and empowerment. Part of me feared his reaction, the other part reveled in finally standing my ground. Almost immediately, he replied, his words dripping with sarcasm. "Sure, blame me. It's always my fault, right?" I felt the weight of his resentment and bitterness, and for a moment I was tempted to engage further. But then I remembered my therapist's advice about setting boundaries. I blocked him again, my heart pounding, but a sense of relief washed over me. I stared at the blank screen, and for the first time in years, it did ache. This entire ordeal felt like a test of my growth. I was no longer the girl who felt trapped in a relationship with a man who couldn't see past his own pain. I had embraced my independence, and I was finally ready to step into the life I had always wanted. As the weeks went by, the emotional storm settled and I felt stronger. I focused on my studies, took on new challenges, and delved deeper into my relationship with Jake. He was everything I had hoped for: kind, supportive, and genuinely interested in my aspirations. It felt refreshing to share my dreams with someone who encouraged me to pursue them. However, the lingering thoughts of my past still crept in at times, especially when I heard mutual friends discussing my ex. I often wondered how he was doing, if he had made any progress in his life, but instead of feeling guilty, I reminded myself that I had to prioritize my own happiness. I couldn't keep looking back. I had to keep moving forward. One afternoon, as Jake and I strolled through a local park, I decided to share my thoughts. Sometimes I feel guilty for how things ended with my ex, I confessed, my voice barely above a whisper. I wish he would try to help himself, but I know that's not my responsibility anymore. Jake stopped walking and turned to face me, his expression serious. You did what you could, and it's okay to feel conflicted. Just remember, you're not responsible for his choices. You're on your path now, and it's a good one. His words washed over me like a gentle wave, soothing my lingering doubts. That weekend, I decided to catch up with Sarah over coffee. We sat at our favorite cafe, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee filling the air as we settled into a cozy corner. I shared the latest developments with her, the messages, my responses, and my feelings of empowerment. I can't believe I finally stood up for myself, I said, a smile spreading across my face. It feels amazing to take control of my narrative. Sarah beamed at me, her eyes sparkling with pride. You've come so far, I'm really proud of you. It's not easy to confront the past, especially someone like him who refuses to take responsibility. You're doing what's best for you. As we talked, I realized how much I appreciated having a friend who understood my journey. Sarah was there to remind me that I wasn't alone in this. We spent the afternoon reminiscing about our college days, laughing about embarrassing moments, and dreaming about our futures. It felt good to focus on the present rather than the past. Toward the end of our coffee date, Sarah leaned in, her expression turning serious. You know, she said softly, it's okay to let go of the guilt. You're not responsible for his happiness. Focus on your own journey. You deserve to be happy. Her words resonated deeply within me, and I nodded, feeling a weight lift off my shoulders. As the days turned into weeks, I found myself growing increasingly confident. I embraced the idea that my past did not define me. It simply shaped who I was today. I immersed myself in my studies, poured energy into my relationship with Jake, and even started a new hobby, painting. Painting became my new form of therapy. It allowed me to express emotions I hadn't fully processed, and each brushstroke felt liberating. I created pieces that depicted my journey, vibrant colors bursting forth as I captured the struggle and subsequent triumph of my experiences. The canvas became a safe space for my feelings, a reflection of my growth and resilience. One evening, as Jake and I sat in my apartment, I decided to share my artwork with him. I could feel my heart racing as I revealed my latest piece, a swirling representation of my emotional journey. This one is about letting go, I explained, pointing to the dark colors fading into bright hues. It symbolizes my struggle with my past and how I'm finally learning to embrace my future. Jake studied the painting, a thoughtful expression on his face. It's beautiful, he said, his eyes shining with admiration. You've captured so much emotion in it. I can see how far you've come. You should be proud of yourself. His words warmed my heart, and I felt a swell of gratitude. I was no longer just a girl haunted by her past. I was a woman reclaiming her identity, one brushstroke at a time. With every interaction, I felt myself growing stronger, more resilient. I was reclaiming my narrative, one post and one message at a time. I knew I could face whatever came next, ready to embrace the life I was building with newfound strength. So Reddit, AITA for confronting my past and standing my ground when faced with accusations. Update 3, for a brief while, life quieted. Jake and I started planning a weekend trip. I painted more, laughed more. It felt like maybe, just maybe, I had closed the door for good. Then I got the alert. As I settled into my new routine, a sense of peace enveloped me. I was thriving in my studies, my art, and my relationship with Jake. Each day felt like a step further away from the shadows of my past. Yet, the lingering echoes of my first love occasionally crept back into my mind, especially when I received notifications from the forum where my ex had been venting. I had muted him, but every so often, I would catch snippets of conversations among friends, and I couldn't help but wonder how he was faring. One evening, as Jake and I enjoyed a quiet dinner, I felt compelled to share my concerns. "I've been thinking about my ex again," I admitted, pushing my plate away. "I know I should just let it go, but it's hard sometimes. I worry about him." Jake looked at me with understanding. "It's natural to feel that way, especially since you invested so much time in that relationship, but you've made it clear that you can't carry his burdens anymore. You've worked hard to focus on your own happiness." His words were grounding, but I still felt an urge to confront the situation head-on. "What if I reached out one last time, just to clarify things and put my mind at ease?" I suggested hesitantly. "Are you sure that's what you want?" Jake asked, concern etched on his face. "You've made so much progress. I wouldn't want you to open old wounds unnecessarily." I considered his words for a moment. I didn't want to jeopardize the growth I had achieved, but I also felt a gnawing urge to confront the narrative he had spun. "I think I need to do this for my own closure," I replied, my voice steady. Jake nodded, still worried but supportive. The next day, I drafted a message, carefully choosing my words. I wanted to express my feelings without escalating the situation. "Hey, I've been reflecting on our relationship and the breakup. I just want to clarify a few things. I hope you're doing okay, but I need to be honest about how I felt during our time together." As I hit send, a wave of anxiety washed over me. What would he say? Would he lash out? I had to remind myself that I was no longer the girl who felt small and powerless. I was taking control of my narrative. Within hours, I received a reply. His words were defensive, filled with anger and accusations. "You're just trying to make yourself look good. You always played the victim. I'm the one who's suffering here." Reading his response felt like a punch to the gut. I took a deep breath, reminding myself that I had chosen to confront him for my own peace, not to engage in a back-and-forth fight. I took my time crafting a response, determined to stick to my truth. "I'm not trying to blame you or play the victim," I replied. "I just want to express how I felt during our relationship. I supported you, but I had to prioritize my mental health in the end. I hope you can understand that." His reply came quickly. "You're the one who left me. You'll never understand what I went through." My heart raced. I felt the familiar weight of guilt creeping in, but I pushed it back. "I realize it's painful for you, but I can't take responsibility for your happiness anymore. I wish you the best, but I need to focus on my life now." Hitting send was liberating. I felt like I had finally laid my feelings to rest. I had confronted my past, and no matter how he responded, I had made my truth known. As the days passed without further communication from him, I felt lighter. I had taken a step toward closure, and I was ready to move on completely. Jake noticed the change in me, and his smile grew wider each day. "You seem different," he remarked one evening after dinner. "More at peace." "I think I finally let go," I said, a smile breaking across my face. "I confronted my past, and it feels like I can finally breathe again." With renewed energy, I threw myself into my studies and my art. I started working on a new canvas, one that symbolized growth and transformation. I painted vibrant colors swirling together, representing the beauty that comes from embracing change. One afternoon, I shared my progress with Jake. "This piece is about reclaiming my life," I explained, the colors dancing before us. "It feels like a celebration of everything I've overcome." He watched me with admiration. "You're an incredible artist, and your journey is inspiring. I'm so proud of you." Those words filled me with warmth. I realized that I was finally surrounded by people who celebrated my growth rather than held me back. I had traded the chaos of my past for a supportive relationship, one that encouraged me to pursue my dreams. A few weeks later, I received a notification that my ex had posted again. This time, he didn't mention me directly but complained about feeling abandoned and alone. I felt a twinge of sympathy but quickly reminded myself of the importance of boundaries. I didn't owe him anything. Instead of engaging, I focused on my own life. I found myself excited about the future, planning trips with Jake and discussing our aspirations. I felt a sense of freedom I hadn't experienced in years. As I prepared for the upcoming semester, I reflected on everything I had learned. I had faced my past, embraced my present, and looked forward to a future filled with possibility. I was no longer the girl who felt trapped. I was a woman ready to take on the world. So, Reddit, AITA for confronting my past and standing my ground when faced with accusations. I hope this journey resonates with others who have faced similar struggles. Remember, it's okay to prioritize your happiness and take control of your narrative.